I used to believe that family meant forever. That no matter how messy life got, no matter how many fights or differences, you could always count on blood. I believed that because I had no choice. My name is Vivian Quinn, and I spent the first 29 years of my life defending my sister from the world. I wish I could tell you she deserved it. I wish I could say I was framed by a stranger or an enemy. But the truth? The person who set me up to take the fall for a six-figure crime was the same girl I used to share bunk beds with. Her name is Madison, and she smiled the day I was taken away in handcuffs. Madison and I weren't close in that warm, Hallmark movie way. We were survivors of the same battlefield. An alcoholic father, a ghost of a mother, and too many broken promises to count. I was the older one by 3 years, the responsible one, the one who made sure dinner was on the table and report cards weren't soaked in vodka spills. Madison? She was wild, charming, manipulative in ways that didn't look like manipulation until it was too late. She always knew how to cry on command. She always had an alibi. But I told myself she was just figuring things out. Because that's what big sisters do. We explain things away. When she stole my cash in college, I said she needed help. When she crashed my car and blamed the brakes, I paid the insurance and told myself she panicked. And when I got my first job as a financial compliance analyst at a boutique consulting firm, I even pulled strings to get her hired as an administrative assistant. Madison didn't thank me. She never did. The trouble didn't start right away. In fact, for a while, she seemed like a model employee. Always on time. Always smiling. Everyone loved her, especially my manager, David, who used to say, "You two must come from good stock." If only he knew. Then one morning, I came into work to find a note on my desk from HR. Mandatory audit on your recent reports. That wasn't unusual. My job involved sensitive data, clients, investment portfolios, and massive cash transfers. But I was careful, obsessively careful. I double-checked everything, so I wasn't worried. Until I saw the discrepancies. 5 accounts, money moved, approvals logged under my name. And I don't mean small sums. We're talking $240,000 rerouted into a shell account with a matching offshore trail. It felt like being punched in the lungs. I pulled every record I could, access logs, approval stamps, even timestamp backups from our internal system. All of it pointed to me. I tried to explain. David looked at me like I was speaking a different language. He said the audit trail was clear, that it was cut and dry. And when HR called me in again, there was someone else in the room. A federal investigator. Apparently, the firm had already reported the incident as corporate fraud. I was escorted out of the building. By security. In front of coworkers. Clients. My sister. She looked surprised. Hand over her mouth. Eyes wide. But I saw it. That flicker. The same flicker she had when she used to lie to my face and ask for my help in the same breath. I was suspended, charged, and overnight, I became a criminal in the eyes of my employer, my landlord, and even some friends. Madison? She got promoted to client account liaison, my old position. I couldn't make bail. My savings had been frozen pending investigation. I had to sell my car to pay for a defense lawyer who barely knew my name. I spent 19 days in county holding, wearing orange, eating cold oatmeal, sleeping beside women with murder in their eyes. You learn things in there, like how fast your name can rot when the truth gets buried. But I also had time to remember the moments, the ones I ignored. How Madison always lingered when I worked from home. How she once asked how our internal approval system worked, just out of curiosity. How I found her once in the supply closet on my laptop, claiming she was just checking an email. And then I remembered something that stopped my breath cold. 6 months earlier, I'd helped her update her resume. I showed her how to mirror my credentials just in case she ever applied somewhere with a tighter system. That's when it hit me. She didn't just use me as cover. She became me, digitally, professionally, legally. And now I was sitting in a cell while she lived my life, my job, my paycheck, and soon, maybe even my apartment. But I wasn't done. Not even close. After 19 days in holding, I was finally released, pending trial. The air outside didn't feel fresh. It felt suspicious, like it didn't want me there. Everywhere I turned, people avoided eye contact. My old neighbor, Mrs. Hughes, crossed the street when she saw me. The guy at the corner store slipped my change across the counter like I was contagious. But the worst part wasn't the isolation. It was going back to the apartment I shared with Madison. Yes, shared. Because I couldn't afford to move, and she'd somehow charmed our landlord into letting her stay too. So now I was living with the woman who had sold me out and smiling like nothing ever happened. "Glad you're out," she said sweetly as she sipped her oat milk latte. Must have been a nightmare. I looked at her. No words, just calculation. Because if she thought I was done, she didn't know me at all. Over the next few weeks, I kept my head down. No outbursts, no confrontations, just silent, seething research. I waited until she was asleep to use the laptop. I checked old emails, drafts, calendars. I found nothing too obvious. She'd cleaned up well. But she made one mistake. She left her backup drive plugged into the side of the router. It was labeled taxes_2022. But inside, a folder titled Vivian Authorization Forms. I opened it. Inside were scanned approvals, ones I never saw. PDFs with my digital signature. Forged so perfectly even I did a double take. But metadata doesn't lie. Each file had been created at odd hours, 2:17 a.m. for 03 a.m., times when I was either at work or dead asleep. I screenshotted everything, created backups, saved them in cloud drives she couldn't access, and then I followed the money. Using a friend's computer at a library across town, I traced one of the shell accounts listed in the original investigation. Most people don't know this, but digital breadcrumbs have weight. And Madison? She was careless. She'd rerouted the funds to a fake company, Quinn Holdings. Quinn, our last name, like she wanted to get caught. Or worse, wanted me to get the blame permanently. The money was then split into smaller wires, trickling into multiple accounts. But one caught my eye. A private account tied to a leasing company in a beach town 3 states away. And under the rental agreement for a vacation property was Madison's full legal name, with my email listed as the secondary contact. Now I had something, but it wasn't enough. I needed to catch her admitting guilt. And Madison was too smart to fall for a direct confrontation. So I did what any woman framed for fraud by her sister would do. I got her drunk. One night I came home with takeout and a bottle of her favorite wine, Chardonnay, the expensive kind. I figured, I said casually, if I'm going down for this, I might as well enjoy my last few weeks. She perked up. We laughed. We drank. She got comfortable. 3 glasses in, she started bragging. "You know," she slurred, "you always made it too easy. You kept everything neat. Straight lines. Predictable. I just copied and pasted." I smiled. "Is that right?" She giggled. "What can I say? I learned from the best." That was it. That was the moment. Because what Madison didn't know was that I had placed my phone on the table, recording the entire conversation. Crystal clear audio, time-stamped, admissible. The next day, I sent a copy to my lawyer. "I need you to hear this," I said. After 5 minutes, he sat back, eyes wide. This changes everything. Over the next week, we pulled together all the files from her backup drive, screenshots of financial transactions, metadata proving forgery, the audio confession. I even reached out to David, my old boss, and scheduled a private meeting. At first, he was cold. "I can't be involved, Vivian." But when I played the recording for him, his hands started to shake. I vouched for her. 2 days later, the firm launched an internal investigation. 3 more irregularities were found, traced back to Madison. When they quietly confronted her, she claimed I had coached her to reroute the funds. But by then, I'd already gone to the district attorney's office, not to defend myself, to flip. I became the star witness in a federal case, cooperating fully, handing over every file, every screenshot, every time-stamped recording. Madison's fake charm cracked under pressure. She stuttered, panicked, and when the subpoena came, she didn't just lose her job. She lost everything. By the time the court date was set, I had memorized every detail of the case. The amount stolen, $241,850. The number of forged files, 17. The alias company, Quinn Holdings. The offshore account, traced to a shell entity registered in Belize. And the kicker? Madison's signature on a rental agreement linked directly to where a portion of the stolen funds had been spent, on a luxury vacation home, complete with marble countertops and a hot tub that cost more than my entire college tuition. Her downfall wasn't just greed. It was sloppiness born from arrogance. And when people like her get too confident, they always leave something behind. The trial begins. Court was cold, unforgiving. Madison showed up in a designer blazer and fake tears. Her lawyer tried to paint her as a victim of sibling jealousy. She was always in Vivian's shadow, he told the jury. She just wanted to step into the light. I almost laughed. Like stealing 6 figures and framing your sister was just a misguided quest for love. I sat quietly at the prosecution's table, my hands folded, because my time was coming, the moment I'd been building toward for months. When I was called to the stand, Madison didn't look at me. Not once. Testifying, I took a deep breath, looked the jury in the eyes, and began. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because the truth matters." Then I walked them through the forged approvals and how the digital signatures had been copied, the shell company and its creation date, just days after Madison was given admin access to my work calendar. The wire transfers, routed during my off hours, traced directly to accounts in her name. And finally, the recording. The courtroom was silent as her voice filled the room. "You always made it too easy." I just copied and pasted. Gasps, shifts in seats, a juror shaking their head in disbelief. "Madison?" Her face turned white. Her hand trembled. She looked at me for the first time since this began, not with hatred, but fear, because she finally knew. I had outplayed her. After 5 days of trial, the jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. They found her guilty on all counts: wire fraud, forgery, criminal impersonation, aggravated identity theft. She was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison and ordered to pay restitution. She turned to me during sentencing and mouthed something. At first, I thought it was sorry, but no, it was "this isn't over." I didn't flinch, because it was. Madison went to prison. Her name was printed in papers, finance blogs, even a few podcasts that specialized in white-collar crime. My name? It was cleared, but I didn't go back to my old job. I didn't need to. Instead, I wrote a book, The Truth Between Sisters. It wasn't just about fraud or betrayal. It was about how easy it is to ignore red flags when you love someone, and how dangerous that can be. It hit #2 on a nonfiction bestseller list in its second week. I was invited to speak at a university on ethics in tech. Then another, and another. Months later, I got a letter from Madison. It was handwritten. She said prison had changed her, that she was sorry for everything, that she wanted a second chance. I didn't respond, because sometimes forgiveness isn't about letting someone back in. It's about letting yourself move on. And I had, fully. After the trial, I expected to feel victorious, but that wasn't the emotion that came. It was relief, quiet, heavy, cleansing, like setting down a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying since childhood. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to look over my shoulder. I didn't have to explain away Madison's choices. I didn't have to clean up her messes. I didn't have to forgive someone who never asked for forgiveness. I was free. Of course, life didn't magically click into place overnight. I had to rebuild everything from scratch: my credit, my reputation, my sense of self. People still whispered. Some looked at me like they weren't quite sure what side I was really on. That's the thing about being framed. Not everyone believes the truth, even when it's served in a courtroom. But I kept showing up, with truth, with integrity, with evidence of who I actually was. Day by day, I reclaimed my life. A year later, I launched my own financial consulting firm. But I didn't build it to climb some corporate ladder. I built it to protect other women. Women who were pushed out, set up, undermined. I offered mentorship, free workshops on digital security, pro bono work for women fighting unfair accusations. And slowly, something beautiful happened. The thing that was meant to destroy me became my calling. I wasn't just the girl who got framed. I was the woman who fought back and won. A letter from the past. 2 years after Madison's sentencing, I got another letter. This time from a young woman. She'd read about my case online, then followed my story on social media. She said her sister had been emotionally abusive for years, that she always thought she had to put up with it because family is forever. But after hearing what I did, she cut ties. She started over. She called me her permission slip to walk away. I cried when I read it, because that was the moment I knew. Madison took years of my life, but she gave me something she never meant to: a platform, a purpose, and power. They say blood is thicker than water, but sometimes blood is the first wound, the first betrayal, the first red flag we learn to ignore. I don't ignore them anymore. And if you're listening to this right now, if someone close to you is making you question your reality, your worth, your truth, I hope you won't ignore them either. Because you can love someone and still walk away. You can forgive someone and still testify. And you can lose everything you thought mattered, only to realize the best thing you ever gained was yourself. Thank you for listening to Red Flag Diaries. If this story moved you, share it. If you've ever been through something similar, comment below. We see you. And if you want more powerful stories of betrayal, survival, and justice, hit subscribe. Because here, your story unfolds and every red flag becomes a warning we refuse to ignore.